so incredible at one thing in particular, but you struggle in things like um, interacting with people socially, or being physically touched, or certain sounds or things can make you feel a type of way. My thing is, I don't think that it's necessarily a disability. I think disability kind of has that level of stigma on it that has a bad connotation.
I agree. I think ADD is kind of the same thing. Let me ask you a couple questions. Uh, do you think that this is a product of our environment, or do you think that the level of autism has just gone up because of the level of a population that's gone up?
Well, I was just looking at statistics before we got on this call here, and what's interesting is I saw this statistic that said 1 in 36 people in the United States have autism.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, if you do the math, I'm sure 36 people.
Sure, 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 sure.
So,
Well, I think it's hard for me sometimes, my to kind of it's hard for me to follow by what possible statistics might come out of big pharma studies. Okay, if I could
oh, I
say that.
agree.
Because
I
because
think I've read that off the CDC website. So I
did you?
yeah
Oh, good, good.
yeah.
Because anything,
So,
anything that the big pharma throws out there as being anything, I have a hard time believing anything they say. They always
oh
want to
yeah.
blame something on something. Back in the '80s, it was manic depressants. Then it was something else. Now it's bipolar. There's always
Yep.
something else to sell another drug for. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Which
I'm diagnosed with bipolar, all these like major depressive, bipolar, um, generalized anxiety, and I think that just may be underlying symptoms of just who I am versus because like when I was on medication for all of it, it didn't I didn't feel like me anymore, and I wanted to feel like me.
well, what about? Do you think it might be um, a symptom of trauma or a symptom of
Oh,
oppression? You know what I mean? It's like
absolutely.
we don't have a lot of trauma studies in this country. Like all we know is it's there and that it affects a lot of people, but we don't know why we can't get through it, right? We don't know
Well,
what seems to be the
well, with
problem.
with that, so there's post-traumatic stress syndrome, um, which is largely defined in, if anybody knows more than me, please feel free to chime in. But
Yes,
um, yeah,
anybody who's watching, please feel free. And this will be on replay, but there will be other videos along coming out with it.
so there's post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is largely associated with a singular traumatic event, and
Isn't as
then
complex. Mm,
yes, exactly. And
yeah.
that's not studied here in the States. And it's
Yeah.
it's unfortunate because like for a lot of us, we've been through hell and back, and then we've been back to hell and then came back, and it's
Right.
like we go through it I look at it more of like a life of struggle, and it's like, all right, well, here it goes again. But something that might have happened 5 years ago can still affect you today. And i
Totally.
don't
Totally.
i don't know if that exactly would define like more like autistic traits. Actually, I found this Venn diagram that links autism, OCD, and ADD, and I'll link it somewhere in the comments. I don't know if I can
Okay.
do it while we're currently live,
No, not
but
now, not now. But when you're done, please put it in there. And any other awareness, I know that you're out there. If just chiming in, this is Anarchy Nation. We're speaking to Also. They're outside of Pittsburgh. They are a traveler. They are doing their thing. They are a big part of Anarchy Nation right now. And that's Winehouse, Amy Winehouse.
that's Miss Amy Winehouse.
That's Amy Winehouse. We we have Also and Amy Winehouse that are going to be part of Anarchy Nation, coming to you live with things that could be protested or things that might turn a little bit heated. But we're going to try to get him down here to the main headquarters. We're kind of taking over the river down here. I don't know. At least that's the plan. That's the plan to do. Everybody, they're starting to get to know me around here as being the artist that wants to do a youth studio, and I support a lot of the youth and everything. So I smoke bud. I've been clean and sober for almost 6 years, and we're we're me. I want to get Corey down here. I want to get you down here. I think that this is the promised land of milk and honey, man.
Yeah.
If you go hungry here, then you're you're
You're
you're
doing it wrong.
you're doing it wrong, man. Because I got the river 5 minutes away from here, where there's bass and trout and catfish and crawdads the size of lobsters, and it rains all the
So,
time. Look,
so
fresh
to
water right here. I mean, you can't go wrong, man.
so to get back a little bit on the
Oh,
topic,
yeah, yeah. Thank you. You're great. You're great. Let's get back on topic.
so something that I've noticed and researched is people with autism get a lot of like depressive kind of traits, and going back to it, I think it is because of the stigma, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're R-worded, or you're stupid because you're an R word," and it's like,
Oh no.
you know,
No, I don't even
like
think that autism falls in the handicap zone. I mean, they can see numbers, or they can. I mean, they can hear numbers. They can hear
yeah,
colors.
synesthesia yep,
Yeah,
synesthesia.
yeah. I mean, things like that is like that's like Einstein. Like Einstein could see numbers and see equations before they even were happening. Isn't that right? I mean, come on, that could be some of the first steps of real of mass evolution, right?
Exactly.